Hi guys, Dr. Mike Carberry here from Advanced Medical Integration. I want to talk to you about marketing and expanding your practice. So let's talk about expansion of the practice first. There's only three ways to expand the practice, or really any business. Increase your prices, increase your volume, or increase your services. They're the only three ways to do it. So if you're a chiropractor, you could raise your prices, charge more, and there's some chiropractors I definitely think should do that. Or you could just see a lot more people. I went that route. I was doing 700 visits a week in one practice. Or increase your services. I went that route as well. And the increase in the services being medically integrated does that. The scope of a chiropractor is like this. They can see a patient off the street and work them all the way to discharge. Or if you want to do it this way, see a patient off the street and work them all the way to discharge. But their scope is only this wide. We can work on physical things, and every scope is different in different states. Pretty much it's the spine and the extremities and improving the manipulation of those joints. But if you look at a medical scope can see a patient off the street, take them all the way to discharge, but can treat almost anything. They have the widest scope in practice. So when you become a medical practice, you improve or increase that scope. And that scope offers you the ability to offer a lot more services, to be able to treat a lot more things. For example, when I was in practice as a chiropractor, I remember definitely having one patient who was trying to avoid a knee replacement surgery. And I was a chiropractic office, and he came in because he said, my wife came here and she said, maybe you could help. I had a knee replacement and I got an infection and they're going to cut it out and they're going to do another one, and I did that one and that didn't work, and I think he was on the last one. He's like, they're doing one more and then they're amputating his leg. And he said, maybe you could help stop these infections. And interestingly enough, I don't know if I did it or not, but I found he had problems in his low back, especially around L3. I started adjusting them and he got better. But now I have patients that come in and say, like at least 3 a week, I had my right knee replaced. I am not going through that again, so I'm here for my left knee. We get that on a regular basis. So you see a lot more patients like that in a medically integrated practice, where patients, I remember distinctly having a patient that we treated who was trying to avoid a hip replacement surgery. Well, now we have that on a regular basis. They weren't doing shoulder replacement surgeries back then, but we were seeing a lot of people that were facing rotator cuff problems. And now they do shoulder replacement surgery. And the guys who've had that are saying, I don't want to ever do that again. So you do open your scope. And when you're a medical office, people are going to this medical office with the trust that the medical people will decide what's best for them. And you have the ability to offer those services because you're a medical practice. What you don't have is the ability to dictate care or diagnosis. You have to make sure you don't cross that line. So we're not going to talk about that in this video. Just make sure you're not doing that. You have to have your system set up where your medical people are actually making the call. Just make sure your medical person agrees with your purpose and philosophy and has benchmarks and standards to follow in your systems, so that they are not you're not actually going in and making a call and practicing medicine without a license. You get in big trouble for that. But assuming you're doing everything right and you have a practice that is offering these services, how do you market it? Well, there's a couple things you really need to consider. First of all, chiropractors, when you're a chiropractic office, you're marketing to 10% of the population, basically. That's who goes to a chiropractor. And you can have people argue, oh no, there was a study that said 14% go or whatever. Still, the vast majority of people, over 80%, do not go to a chiropractor. So in a medical practice where they have chiropractic as a service, that's a different viewpoint than a chiropractic practice having medical people as a service. And your marketing should reflect this. You want to be a medical practice because you are. That's the only legal way to do it. And the chiropractic is one of the services offered in that practice. The person running the care plan would be the senior license. And that if you have an MD or a nurse practitioner, that license has a bigger scope than yours does if you're a chiropractor. So you have to make sure you don't violate that, and in fact, promote that. Promote the fact that there's a medical license in there and that this is a medical clinic, and chiropractic is just one of the services offered. That also gives you the ability to start to remove yourself as the primary treatment person, because chiropractic is just one of the services, and you don't have to be the technician in there doing it. If you want to, that's great, but if you want to run the practice, that's an important job too. So let's talk about marketing. Some of the rules in marketing is you have to appeal to your audience based on their viewpoint, not yours. So when you talk about your business, it's very tempting to say, Oh, well, now I have all these services. Let me tell people, we have chiropractic, we have medical, we have massage, we have laser, we have whatever. People really don't care about any of that stuff. What they care about is themselves. And I'm not saying that snidely. People just think of it in terms of, well, how's this going to affect me in my life? If somebody has a knee problem, if somebody has a hip problem, if somebody has a shoulder problem, their viewpoint is going to be through that. So when we market, we always market about the patient's problems. So all of our ads, whether it's on social media or whether it's in the paper or on the radio, all of our ads are from that viewpoint, the patient's viewpoint about suffering and interfering with life and holding back your life. That is actually the contractual agreement you have with this patient to restore that. So when they are hearing that, when they're reading that ad and it's saying, are you having trouble with this, and is it affecting this, and does it prevent you from doing this? Patients go, yeah, I do. Now all of a sudden they're identifying with that ad and they want to find out more. In marketing, your job is not to get them to sign up for a care plan. Your job in marketing is to get them interested to come into your practice to find out if you can help. So creating a mystery has better power than actually trying to sell them on an idea. So what you want to do is talk about their problem, and you should come in and find out if we can help. Because can you find out through an ad or a website or even at a conference or at a dinner talk, can you actually figure out if you help people? No, you can't. You'd have to look at them. You'd have to look at diagnostics or order diagnostics. You'd have to do an exam. You'd have to hear a history. You'd have to find out what actually happened to see, is this a case that we think we can help or not? And we don't ever promise a patient that we can do that until we do. Our promise always is, I don't know, you should come in and we should check you out to see if we can help. If we can, we'd be glad to do it, but we don't know. That's your marketing line to get people in, and it's true. I mean, you don't want to promise results. One of the things that discredits chiropractic is when we start claiming that we can cure anything, or that we've had people that had this and we can fix it. That people don't believe that. It's not credible enough. You might have had some amazing things happen in your practice. I did. But if I start talking about them to patients, they'll be like, yeah, that guy's dreaming, or he's making it up, or it's just too fantastic to be true. It goes further to have somebody say, I don't know if I can help you. You should really come in and get checked out. So when we do marketing, that's the stance we take. Whether we do it in a printed or a video, or whether we're actually marketing direct one-on-one. So we'll divide marketing into two categories: active marketing and passive marketing. Passive marketing is you're running ads to try to get people to reach out to you. And those ads, the best medium in the country right now is social media. So you should have a social media company that can help you market your services to the public. And they should be able to help you designate and attract or communicate with the demographics that you want. That's all possible through social media. So there are people that actually know how to do this really well. There's a lot of people who claim they know how to do it, but there's people that actually know how to do it as well. And we work with companies that do this very, very well. And you can get referrals from us for companies like New Patient Machine, great company. But if you're going to go out on a limb and find somebody that you know, make sure you talk to people who've used them and look at their results. And don't sign a binding contract that's going to lock you in for months and months and months. Run a test. You got to give it at least 3 months in the test to make it work. So let's talk about marketing. Let's talk about passive marketing. If you're going to do passive marketing, you have to stay fresh in front of the people. So like if you do it on TV, they're probably doing something else. When your ad comes on, they're turning their attention away from the TV. That is what's happening. It's like they might watch it, but they're about to turn their attention away because they're going to run into the bathroom, or they're going to run into the kitchen, or they're going to talk to somebody, but they're turning their attention away from the TV on the commercial. So just realize that. That's one strike against TV. But TV can be very, very effective, especially if you catch their eye. If you do social media, they're on there and they're engaged in social media, and it pops up on their screen and they look at it. It pops up on their screen because they've already looked at something in that topic. And the people that know how to do this know how to get that to happen. And if it's catchy enough and they start reading it, they start scrolling through it. That's what you want. You want somebody to scroll through your ad. You don't want the offer to be boom right there. You want them to go through the whole thing, because now you know if you have their attention or not. And if they go all the way through and they click on it, that's a hot lead, a fairly hot prospect. So you have to respond to that person in a timely manner. So when we run a campaign on Facebook or Twitter or something like that, we have somebody answering the phone even on the weekends. We have arrangements made with some of our staff that volunteer to answer the phone and to get these people scheduled so that they can come in. If you don't do that, if you wait until Monday, they're going to go, what did I click on? They're not going to remember doing that. You got to get them while they're reading that thing, and they click on it within 15 minutes or 20 minutes or half an hour, pops up, or they get a phone call. Hey, you just asked for more information. I want to schedule you. We're having a dinner talk. We're having a this or that or whatever. Schedule for a free consultation. Whatever your offer is, you want to do it. Then you got to follow up with them and make sure they actually show up. So you got to have reminder calls and reminder texts. Text is a great way to communicate with people now. People communicate more with text than they do with phone calls. People screen phone calls, they read text. That's just the way it is. Very few people screen text. People read text. So if you want to communicate with somebody, texting is a good way to do it. If you're going to call and leave a message, I would also text that person. So you want to obtain their cell phone number if you can when you start to engage with them, and then contact them. You can also do it through email, but you could also do it through cell phone. And texting is a great way to do it. So when you reach out to them, you get them attracted. You got to make sure you confirm that appointment. So, I've had people say, well, we don't want to call too many times. We don't want to bother them. I'd hate to lose a sale because I didn't bother them enough. And I have lost sales where people said, we thought, well, give them the information, let them think about it for a couple of days, and then we'll call and say, just check in. And when you're just checking, yeah, I went with so-and-so. Why? Well, they were calling my phone and ringing my phone off the wall. Well, shame on us for not doing the same. I'd rather bother them than, if you listen to Grant Cardone, he says the same thing. I'd rather bother them than lose a sale. So they need something. You have something that they need. You actually have a good product or service. You got to get it to them. It's not a time to be timid or politically correct. It's a time when you got to say, hey man, you're suffering with that. Why are you living with it? I can probably help you with it. Come in and let me at least check. Get them into your office. You got to switch it up. You can't keep running the same thing. If your ad looks the same, the first time they look at it, they go, oh wow, that's interesting, I have that. Second time they look at it, oh, there's that ad again. Third time they look at it, they go, oh, there's that ad again. Fourth time they look at it, it's like, there's that ad again. And then the fifth time, they just don't even look at it anymore. You got to change it up. You got to make it look fresh. You got to make it look different, and you have to do that continually. You have to change medium. If you keep doing it on Facebook and that's the only place you are, well, you want it to have it so that they get a postcard in the mail that looks like your ad, and they go, oh, here's that company. Wow, that a lot of times the second medium really makes them pay attention, where they go, I looked at that before, and here they are now. I got to find out who these people are. Sometimes just switching medium, boom, you get the sales. I've had people say to me, I was doing Facebook and I was doing dinner talks, and it was doing good at first and it started to drop off, and then I switched to postcards, boom, and it went through the roof again. And then I went back to social media and it was good again. You just got to change it up. You got to use different mediums. If you're going to do the newspaper, I get this from Dr. Kevin Guillen, one of my dear friends and client. He said, the best time to advertise in a newspaper is on Monday. And you want a full page ad because there's the least amount of full page ads on Mondays than any other day. You want to be on page 3 or page 5 or page 7, because when people look at the paper, here's page 1, they open it, that's 2, there's 3. They turn the page again, there's 5. They turn the page again, there's 7. You want to be on that right side, and you want to be in the first 3. So 3, 5, or 7. That's a good thing to do. And if you do it on Monday, you're probably going to get the best rate because the least amount of people advertise, because they all just advertised on Sunday. So, and you'll have the least amount of competition as far as journalistic traffic. So that's how I would use a newspaper. And then you want to have a buy now in there, or some sort of offer, some sort of trigger mechanism to make them take action. It's a take action mechanism. So to get them to call, to get them to email, to get them to show up at your office or something where you can reach back to them and talk to them. So if you're going to do passive marketing, you got to keep it fresh. You got to keep changing it. You got to change the medium. You got to change the look of your ad and a little bit of or some of the content, so that it's not the same thing over and over again. People will become numb to it. They will become numb to it and they'll not even recognize it's there. It's like the billboard you pass, you go down the street. The only way a billboard campaign works is if you keep changing it like every month, because the same people drive by, there's billboard, there's billboard. Don't make the mistake of trying to advertise like the big guys, because the big guys are throwing millions of dollars at their marketing. So Coca-Cola can afford to have a kid playing in a field with a puppy while he's drinking a Coke and not really say much in their ad. You can't. See, Coke is hitting them every which way, but you know, they're sponsoring a football game and they're here and they're there and they got the cups with their name on it and they got everything, you know, and you're hearing it and they're ad after ad after ad, and their ads now, so they don't get numb to them, that, you know, you don't see many soda ads going, and here's why you should drink our soda. What you get is like Santa Claus playing volleyball with his elves and drinking a Coke afterwards. You know, they're just trying to impress you. Oh, look, isn't this a cute little ad? So you have a good feeling about Coke, so the next time you go to buy soda, you're going to buy Coke. Don't do that marketing. You cannot afford to do that marketing. That's the most expensive way to market, and that's what really big, successful companies do. What you want to do is talk about the person's problem to catch their attention and steer them into an offer to take action. Do that. Let's talk about active marketing. Active marketing is where you have somebody in your organization that actually goes out to businesses. So let's talk about that. When you're a chiropractic office, a lot of chiropractors do that. And when you go to a health fair, there's a lot of competition. Businesses, you know, you're trying to market to get into the health fair or to do whatever at this business, you got to go see HR. And the human resources person is sitting there, oh, you want to be in our health fair? Yeah, you're a chiropractor? Okay, yeah, you can put your name on the list. Because they got chiropractors all trying to get in. Medical people usually don't do this. Why not? Medical doctors are petrified of running businesses. Not all of them, but most of them. A lot of them, that's what they tell me. And a lot of them are petrified of advertising and marketing. They get arrangements set up like this. Let's say I'm a medical doctor and I want to open a practice. And the hospital says to me, okay, well, we'll either own your practice and help set it all up and send you patients, and then we'll pay you X amount, or you can contract with us and we'll help fund your opening and your cost of opening, and you sign an agreement that every patient you have that needs to go to the hospital is going to go to our hospital, and then we'll send you patients on a regular basis. That's where they get their patients. So they don't usually go out and market. So when you're the HR department, as a chiropractor, you're hoping they're not a person who goes to a chiropractor, because if they are, they're only going to let one chiropractor into their health fair, and that's their chiropractor. But if you're a medical office, when you go into HR, they're like, you're a medical practice, you want to be in our health fair? We don't have too many medical practices who want to be in our health fair. So it's a different approach now. Well, this happened to me a couple times. You know, I'm really new at here and I don't know what I'm doing. They're saying this to my marketer. Could you help me do this? Could you help me run the health fair? Because you're a medical practice. And my marketer was smart enough to say, sure, I'll help. And then they'd say, how much do you charge? And she was smart enough to say, well, we could work that out. So I've actually been paid for health fairs that I went to and signed up new patients at, because we're a medical office and it was very unique for the business. If you're not exploring that avenue, you're missing a boat. We do it all. We do postcards, occasionally we do newspaper, occasionally we don't do TV, and we don't do radio. I used to have a radio show, and that was good because I was a regular personality in a radio, and there was listeners that got to know us and they'd come in. But doing an ad on the radio, you know, people riding down the street aren't going to write down a number very often. But it is good for branding. But we also did the active. We always have had a team that went out, at least one person that went out to businesses and said, we can do a lunch and learn, we could be in your health fair, we could do whatever. We could do a screening for your patients, we do trigger point therapy for your patients. And as a medical office, a lot of times we get in when a chiropractor wouldn't get in. That's a great way to get patients. If you get a group of people in front of you or in front of somebody in your group that's very educated and communicate to them what you're doing, you could get, you know, getting 50 people educated to come in your office at the same time as one is much better. So, you know, let's say you get 30 of those people that say, yeah, I want to come in. Well, you know, that's better than getting 100% of one, because you got 30. It's very time effective. It's very an efficient way to actually market to people. And these people come in educated. If you spoke to them for an hour, they've heard your philosophy and purpose and the idea of the service and the goals of the service for an hour before they actually sat down and talked to somebody about deciding whether they're going to pay their co-payments or not. You do have to get those co-payments. You do have to get those deductibles. So there are the two different types of marketing you can do. Marketing is easier as a medical practice. But if you do marketing, you got to do marketing. You can't just say, well, I'll save up to pay for my marketing. I'll hold off on spending money on marketing until I get enough money to pay for it. That's like saying, I'll hold my breath to conserve air so I don't pass out. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. You have to communicate with the public. You have a service for society. And if society doesn't know you're there, you could have the best service in the world, nobody's going to buy it. You have to communicate with the public. You have to exchange the ideas that you have for your services and products with the community or they're not coming in. So you have to budget for marketing, something. Either pay that salary of the girl to go out and do the active marketing only, or pay for the passive marketing, or do a combination of both. And you need to do those rules. You need to keep it fresh. You need to keep changing it. So don't go into marketing without doing that. You want to stand out and be unique. So I can tell you, if you try to save on marketing, it's going to kind of come around and bite you. You've got to keep track of your stats. So keep track of what your average cost per lead is. How much does it cost you to get one person in the door? You should know that cost all the time. So you can know, am I doing stuff that increases the cost or lowers the cost? If you get more people in for the same amount of money, that lowers the cost per person. So keep that in mind. But you got to budget it. Most businesses usually budget 15 to 20% of their gross income on marketing. That's just standard practice. So that's a good philosophy to follow. You got to spend money to get patients in the door. You just have to do it. They're not going to come in because they like you. They might, but not as many. So anyway, that's my viewpoint on marketing. Just remember to keep it fresh, put some money into it, get a campaign going, and work that campaign. And you'll be happy because you'll get patients in. In this model, we recommend that you should be getting 10 patients a week, 10 new patients a week, and closing about 7 of them. That's the ideal scene. If you get 20 in a week and you're closing 15 of them, great. But you want to have a constant flow. This is a new patient game. You need a whole flow of new patients and be able to fix them and discharge them. You know, if you try to hang on to them, like a lot of chiropractors do, well, I'll get all these patients in, I'll hang on to them, and then I'll have a whole bunch of maintenance patients. You want to do that, you shouldn't go integrated. Integrated is working on that huge percentage of the population that has nowhere else to go. You're offering them more services to handle their problems. They're a higher dollar value per visit, much higher. And then you're actually doing a service for the community because you're bringing up the health of the community. So keep that in mind. Spend some money on marketing, be effective with your marketing, keep your marketing fresh, and you'll be glad you did. Thanks for listening. This is Dr. Mike Carberry from AMI.